And we are live. Hi, everyone. Happy holidays. Hey, Ellen. What's
Hey,
going on,
Lulu.
girl?
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey, good to see you after Puerto Vallarta. Are we not
I know.
refreshed
I
and
feel like I
renewed?
saw you yesterday.
I know.
What are you drinking, Mama?
Oh, I'm just having a gingerbread oatmeal latte.
Okay. All right. The fancier the name, the more, I don't know what.
The more
Y'all,
flavorful.
listen, if you've been following us on this podcast, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It is the last official Sunday of the year
Yes, it
2024.
is.
It is the
Yep.
last Sunday of the last month in the first quarter of this
Mhm.
century. We're going to go into 25. So that's the last year in the first quarter of this century. So I want to say thank you to everyone who has listened to the podcast, who has emailed us, who has thanked us, who has said anything positive to us about this podcast, who has been supportive, and even the haters, right, Ellen? Even the
Even the
haters.
haters. Because you
Yes.
know what?
So,
Sometimes the haters allow for us to have dialogue around misinformation and why they hate, right? Haters is because they are lacking something or they're avoiding something.
yes,
So,
and usually what they're lacking is, I'm just going to come out and say it, is knowledge because it's ignorance, and maybe lacking compassion for themselves and love for themselves. I mean, let's just come out and say it. If you're so busy hating somebody else, it's because you don't like yourself.
yeah. And
It's
it's
because you
always
don't like
not and it's always not because they are not I'm going to say they are not identifying properly. A lot of it is because they don't know.
they don't know.
They
That's
don't
what ignorance is. They don't know. That's what
they
ignorance.
don't
I
know.
mean, it's a big word, but the truth is the definition of ignorance is lack of knowledge. And then using it counterproductively. So
Yeah.
our guest is here. Hey, Sophie Ace.
Hi, happy holidays to you all.
Yeah. So
Oh my
Sophie meet
god.
Ellen. Ellen meet Sophie.
Sophie,
Hi.
your lighting is everything.
Oh my God.
It just makes you glow and
You're
shine so
sweet.
well. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
thank
and I
you.
love your
It's
hair.
I just watched it, so it's just kind of doing its own situation right
You know
now.
what? I love it. I love it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
How are you guys? Yes.
welcome to the Moms for Trans Kids podcast. We're excited to have you. You are our last guest this year. You're
Oh,
our last guest.
true.
We're just talking about this 2024. 2025 officially is the final year in the first quarter of this century. So,
Oh, wow, that's true.
yes, I didn't realize that somebody else wrote that. And I
Wow.
was like, yeah, that's true. In one quarter already of this century. And believe it or
That's
not, we're just,
crazy.
yeah, you would think we'll be at a better place as a, as a,
Yeah.
as
You're
humans
making me feel old. You got to stop.
after going through the lockdown and all the things that happened in lockdown. You really
Ain't
think
that
that we
Right?
have
Like,
this.
something?
why did we have to live so much history? Why did
Yeah,
we have to live through so much of this? That's crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So Ellen and I were talking about just hatred and how or why people hate and how we're still dealing with even during the holidays. And
Mhm.
Ellen and I were in Puerto Vallarta last week. We just got back this week and we're just talking about how, Ellen, you wanted to talk about your friends who, at
Oh
the
my
age of
gosh.
75, are still becoming queer. So, Elle, take it away. Talk about that a minute.
Yes. You know, and I'm so glad you're here, Sophie, because it kind of is marrying this concept of just who we are and our sexuality and how we identify. And within that, not feeling like we have to be put into a box and how it correlates to actual sex and intimacy.
Hmm.
And so I discovered in having a conversation with my dear friend, he's 75, as Dr. Lulu mentioned, and he has a partner, male, same sex partner. But he said to us that he is finding out that he's very much still bisexual,
Hmm.
and he enjoys the intimacy and the companionship with both men and women. And I think when people what they see, they kind of just it's if there's a full stop. they see me with a woman and I'm in a same-sex relationship, it is okay, this is it.
This is
That's it.
it.
There can't be
Mhm.
anything else.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I'm married to a white man, and it's crazy the overlaps that I saw with that once I got into a relationship with him. He's the first white person I like really dated. Um, and it was almost like overnight I got lumped into that category of black women who only date white men, even though that's
Others.
not at all the way.
Mhm.
So it's funny that, I get that. I understand that parallel of, oh, suddenly that's your label, that's who you are. And it's just not fair. And it's funny that you guys were talking about hate earlier, when I think that is the undercurrent of all of it. It's that if we lived in a world where there was no religion, where there weren't these constraints and societal pressures put on people to have to choose or fall into one of those boxes, there'd be so many eggs out here. There'd be so many people who are like, I like what I like. I like you. I like that. It's literally just these constraints that we put on ourselves. And then I think that's what is the root of all of this hatred. I think when people see other people living their truth, and it's like, oh, how come I can't do that?
How come
Or
I can't do that?
why is that something I can't have? Especially the people who are used to having and are entitled to having, anything they want. You know what I'm talking about? So that's where I think a lot of this underpinning of hate is coming from. And it's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
I believe you. I agree with you. And one of the things we're talking about is that I essentially realized, I came into the full realization that I'm pansexual at the age of 55.
Nice.
And
Good
how,
job.
when I first got
Join the
married,
club. Yes.
I know, thank you. I mean, when I first started at 11, I thought I was a lesbian. That was the only word that was available to me. I was in an all girls high school. That's the only word I knew. I knew I liked boys, and I noticed that I was attracted to girls, but I only knew the word lesbian. I truly only knew the word lesbian.
Mhm.
And then when I was in medical school, I discovered the word bisexual. I'm okay, great. So I guess I'm bisexual. But it was, I went on a date with a woman once, and she was like, well, you need to decide. Which one are you?
No.
You have to pick. So are you one of those? And so which is it? You like to dip in the bush? I'm like, I didn't really do that. And talking about just also hatred coming from, even from within the community, there's still intra community biphobia and hatred. And then
Hmm.
when you throw black into the mix, it's over.
Oh God.
And
Totally
then can
understand.
I add to that and say that I just discovered that I, or have a realization that I probably am leaning towards being asexual and having the
Nice.
attraction of just to the person themselves and just the attraction to who they are as an individual, particularly a woman, and not having the sexual component be the first thing that shows up. And
Exactly.
I'm
So you're
realizing that.
so
I
you're
love that for you
actually
because
demisexual.
I discovered that I was demisexual.
Yeah.
Did you just say demisexual?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I discovered that I was demisexual over a year or maybe 2 years ago. Soon after my divorce, or maybe during my marriage with my ex-wife, I discovered that I discovered the word demisexual, and I
Mhm.
discovered what it meant. And I was like, and so I use it when I give talks. I usually begin my talk when I'm talking to queer people with that. I ask, so who are those who are queer here? Who are those who are not queer? And then for those who are not queer, how many of y'all are demisexual? And then everyone is like, well, what's that? And I ask them to look up the word. And then when
Yes.
they find the word, they come back and say, oh, well, I am, and then I am. I'm like, well, so you don't know who you've been hating this whole time as being yourself. So for those who
Hmm.
are watching us, a demisexual is, well, since Sophie said the word first, I'll let you define the word.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like to have my guests say stuff. I know what it is, but just
No, it's funny because I do a podcast as well, the Sex with Sophie podcast. And maybe a year ago we released one about asexuality. And so my friend Pamela is who I spoke with, and she was my first introduction into this whole aspec or asexuality, aromanticism spectrum. And so from there, I mean, it changed my life. It changed my world. It helped me understand people, including my own husband, who is aromantic and asexual. And so in learning about this spectrum, you'll see there's all kinds of things. You could be koi sexual, cupiosexual, of course, demisexual. What that means is that you have to have a strong emotional connection with someone and
First,
really get to know
yeah,
them first before you can then feel sexual attraction to that person. And that's the same if it was demi romantic. You would have to have that same, again, personal emotional connection before you can feel romantic attraction for that person. So that's all the demi part means. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. So I
Mhm.
want to know if that's very much aligned or mirrored with practicing abstinence. Because when I practiced abstinence,
Mhm.
that was very much a part of me that wanted to get to know the person and be attracted to who they are as just a whole, minus the sexual component. So I'm wondering if that kind
Mm.
of maybe runs one and the same.
Well, to be
so
honest with you,
just
oh, sorry, go,
oh, go
doctor.
ahead.
No, 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 please continue.
Go ahead, Sophie. You have a whole podcast that talks about sex. I teach about this in medical school, so it's fine. But you can go ahead
No,
and
no,
talk.
no. Well, I
And
tell
then
you what, you
I'll
fill
piggyback.
in
Okay.
exactly, fill in where I might not
Yeah,
cover it all,
yeah.
but essentially, attraction and abstinence are kind of even the act of sex or having sex is different from having a sexual attraction. It's weird. You have to kind of decouple it when you're talking about asexuality in that spectrum. So, for instance, if you are feeling that you're demisexual and you have to have that emotional connection, then it would make sense that abstaining from sex would make you feel more comfortable and make you feel like you're giving yourself that opportunity to have that relationship with that person before you move into a sexual relationship. But there are people who are what's called apathosexual, where they are actually repulsed by sex. They don't, and they'll still have sex. It's something that they'll get over with themselves, and they'll if they especially if they're also demisexual and build that connection with someone. So just because someone is on the asexual spectrum doesn't mean that they don't have sex. It just means
Or
that they
even
don't have
enjoy
that
it.
attraction. Exactly,
Or even
exactly.
enjoy it.
Yeah. So
So
if
they
you're,
do
Yeah.
enjoy it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think the two words that come up for me, Ellen, what a great question, first of all. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
love this space that we're in. This is a very adult space. This is a
yeah.
very queer space. This is a very sacred space. This is a
Mhm.
topic that too many people will run opposite direction from, but really what are they running away from? And even those people who are involved by sex, a portion of them may be as a result of trauma, and then another portion is just innate. And the two words I want to share with Ellen are innate and choice. So an asexual person, your sexuality is innate, is inside of you. You can't help it no matter how much you try. Abstinence is a choice. You say, I'm not going to have sex for the next 1 year. I'm not going to have sex for the next 3 years until my head is green, whatever.
Right.
You give it, it's a very intentional choice. Whereas an attraction is something that you have between the ages of, it becomes more apparent actually. Sexuality is at 6 months. And then at 9, it becomes more open and people start like talking about, oh, I see this kid that I like. But you actually, sexuality begins at the age of 6 months, way before
Mhm.
gender identity, which is at 2, is when we recognize. But of the 6 months old don't talk, but they have an affinity for their mother or their father or their siblings. And
Mhm.
that smile, that recognizable smile, is in the spectrum of sexuality, is innate. So asexuals is a sexuality, it's under the sexuality department. Demisexuals is a subclass of aces, which is those who
Mhm.
specifically have to have a strong emotional connection. Asexuals grossly are those who generally are not, yeah, sex, yeah, it doesn't matter to me
Mhm.
when it comes to sex as an act.
Yes.
And then under that group, you have those who's like, yeah, I got to know you first. But I dare to say, what I heard you say was someone like me who is sapiosexual. And the next level is like, let's have a conversation, see what you got in your brain. And
Mhm.
I use Denzel and Maurice Chestnut and Michael Ealy, all the sexually charged black men out there, as an example when I talk about sapiosexuals. Like Denzel could literally, okay, Maurice Chestnut could literally be walking around naked, and I'll be like, yeah, but Maurice, let's talk about like this concept of something, something. And it's like, wait, you mean, I know, I mean, oh yeah, aren't you cold? Like, like I'm not seeing your sexuality. I want to talk about what's in your brain. But this is so important because so many of us don't know what we don't know. And then we just hear LGBT and we just run.
Yeah, but it's the A. It's the 2S LGBTQIA plus. It's the A. It could be asexual. It could be aromantic. It could be agender. But that's the A. So asexual people, ace, what you call ace or arrow or aspec people, they're part of the community. They are family. It's
And they
the
just
A.
don't know. They don't know
Yeah.
what they don't know. People don't know what they don't know.
And I
I
and
love,
I hate to say I didn't know. Again, I
yeah.
just had this conversation a year ago that unlocked so much for me. And so just to put some labels on what you're saying, like
Mhm.
yes, asexuality, it is a sexual like identity, just like you're homosexual, just like you are heterosexual. You could be asexual, you could be all these things. In fact, the label for someone who only feels or who might have felt sexual attraction but had a traumatic situation or were essayed or something like that, and now they are no longer capable of feeling sexual attraction, that's called catosexual. If you're somebody who naturally has like you're talking about Morris Chestnut and everything, I was just thinking about that D'Angelo video, How Does It Feel?
Oh,
And I remember like this thing, I don't know why it came into my
I
head a
was
while
like, put
ago,
on some clothes, bro. Just
but
put
like
on
for
some
me,
clothes.
like I'm what's called an allosexual. So I was very much like, yeah, I remember when that came out, like how hot that was. And it's crazy to me that there's people out there that genuinely, because they're asexual, would look at this fine ass man and be like, whatever.
I
Like,
was like that. That was me.
yeah,
I was like, put on some clothes, but the song is nice. So I was like,
but
what's
that's how
wrong
you
with
can
you?
know. But so we're talking about, especially with like us being moms and like, with our children growing up and having maybe these same thoughts, like that's how you can start to maybe tell where your kids are falling on these different spectrums.
Mhm.
If they don't have crushes, if they seem to not like the same people that singers and media people and media and movies and stuff that their friends like, these are just some tips and tricks to look out for with your own kids if you're noticing that they're experiencing some of these things. So
See, and
you tell.
I realized that within just the reason for my abstinence was
Mm-hmm.
because didn't feel that there was, like you said, this emotional strong connection that I had with a person.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just kind of like, I just don't even want, like, there's the sexual attraction. It doesn't go beyond, or it doesn't graduate to the level of intimacy, because I don't have that draw and that pull with the emotional component and being aligned with this person and their existence. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of, for me, it was like, you know what? I just want to remove this. I want to take this off the table. And I can remember Sophie telling people, I don't want us to have this because I want us to have a different level of connection first. I want to
First.
have this emotional connection with you first. And that then leads to the sexual component.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, I'm just like, I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Can you
Yeah.
believe? Can you just close your eyes and imagine three black men having this conversation?
Oh my
I mean,
god.
I mean it. I
Yeah.
mean, this is something that is so lacking in the black male. And I
Mhm.
have three black male brothers, one
Mhm.
black male father, uncountable black male uncles. This is a conversation that they will run so far away, so fast. But look at how much our brains are growing just by having this conversation. Ellen, there's something that you talk about a lot. You use the word duality a lot.
Mm.
And I usually counter with multiplicity. Even in
Mm.
I want to hold space for people who are in the queer space. I have found that I'm asexual. Underneath asexual, I'm demisexual. I'm also pansexual and polycurious. And who knows what else? And this is
Can I
just
can I counter that?
yeah, go, go,
Can I
go, go
counter
for it.
multi?
Let's
I'm
go.
going to add another word.
Yes. I
Intersectionality.
wrote that down. I wrote intersectionality right here. That's intersectionality right there. That word is
Yes, that's what that is.
intersectionality. And then I put slash multiplicity. Then I was going to come
Yes.
back to intersectionality and
Oh my
say,
gosh. Yes.
also the next higher word is intersectionality, but I want to hold space for Queen Kimberly Crenshaw and
Mhm.
her idea of intersectionality coming
Mhm.
from various identities on the grander scale. But I want to bring it into the queer community and discuss the intersectionality within the queer community.
Yes.
I wrote it down. So this
Yes.
is so good. This is so
That's so
And
good.
great.
Dr. Lulu, to your point, when you talk about when you said, can you imagine three black men doing this? What's unfortunate about the toxic masculinity or hyper masculine male, the issues that they have are surrounding them being forced into this act of sex because
Mhm.
it's aligned with who they have to be as men. So whether they want to or not, I've discovered that just even a very rare conversation with some men that I talk to, where they feel like, well, I had to do this because this is what I'm supposed to do, and
Mhm.
they don't have the opportunity to explore these spaces because it then counters who they are as
Right.
men in society.
But even as we're saying this, the conversation came up because your friend, who is a black man, felt safe enough to have
Mm.
a conversation about this particular thing. How he is like, you know what? Yeah, I'm with a man right now. And I was there. I was doing this. I was like, what? He was safe enough to say, I also am still attracted to women. And I wanted to hug him. And I was like,
Oh.
did he just say that? What a beautiful thing. But he is 75. And
That's
imagine how
awesome.
many 25-year-old black men need to hear that. How many
Mhm.
15-year-old black men, 35, 45, 55-year black men need to even lean into, is this even a possibility for me?
Without being shamed into a
With,
box,
Thank you.
exactly. Coming,
Exactly.
boom, that's the killer right there.
without being
Without having
shamed into a
a layer
box.
of
Mhm.
shame. Oh my
Because
God.
when black men or men in general say that I'm bisexual, bisexuality is
Oh,
taken off
yeah.
the table,
You're
and
just
it is
gay.
no, you're not. You're
Yeah.
gay. Yep.
Mhm. It's
I want to
terrible.
hold space for that, but before I do that, the show is called Moms, the number 4 Trans Kids podcast, and we always show our fingers when we say the number 4. Moms, the number 4 Trans Kids podcast, and I know you know us. We come and we talk about the stuff that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Because we don't give a fuck whether you like it or not. It is a fact. And
Good.
so Ellen and Sophie and I are having a conversation that Ellen sent me 2 text messages saying, "Oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited." It is exciting that we can talk about anything, but a lot of times we want to align with what our guest does and where our guest is and who our guest is and all that. So Sophie has a podcast called Talking About Sex with
Sex
Sophie.
with Sophie.
Sex with
Yeah.
Sophie. And when I was creating the link on LinkedIn, I said, I'm going to write, let's talk about sex. I'm going to write it. And I said, just so I don't lose my account, I'm going to use the number 3 instead
Yeah.
of
I was
13.
about to say, I hope you
But,
didn't.
but, but then I said to myself, how
Yeah.
hypocritical that the algorithm doesn't want me to spell it correctly because, oh my God, it may be something dirty. Then I went into the space of, well, who made the word dirty?
Oh my
Every word
gosh.
is neutral until you
Exactly.
attach a thought to it. Nobody was
Yeah.
born without a sexual act happening. I mean,
And
Yeah.
unless Jesus, so
I'm
go
so
ahead.
excited because I've read a few things, Sophie, and I'm so excited about the conversation happening, or that you create space, particularly as I'm looking at a black woman who talks about these things openly, because historically we have been shamed and not talking about them. So
Mhm.
just that you have this level of understanding and education, and to put women in a space of being okay and not feeling, as Dr. Lulu said, dirty or
Mhm.
shamed or embarrassed. And so having these conversations is so important. And I'm just so, like, as I was reading through some of the titles and the topics, my son, my trans son,
Yeah.
female to male, read the one, I think, that you talked, or the one topic about um pleasuring yourself, masturbation, and he
Mhm.
was like, I need to read about this, you know he was
I,
so excited.
And
Yeah.
Ellen, even just drawing a parallel between you, me, Sophie, which is more like a triad, but a parallel between what we talk about. we are two Black women talking about affirming our queer, trans
Yeah.
children, right?
Yeah.
Mine is a trans woman, yours a trans man. Just the fact that coming back to the fact that who else will talk about it if not
Mm.
us?
Mm.
Who else
Mhm.
will talk about sex if not a Black woman? Who else will have the power and the confidence to go a place where no one is going? We're the only ones that we know that are talking
Yeah.
about affirming our Black trans kids. Like, oh my God, really? That's what you're. Yeah, like, when people say, "Oh, you have a podcast," I'm like, "Yes." And I know I just watched them. 3, 2, 1. What's it about? And I'm like, "Oh." And once I say it, it's oh.
Yeah.
So you're also a doctor. I mean, it's like they want the ground to just open so they can
Yeah.
fall in because oh my
A
God, you're
little
talking about a
product
child.
place. But no,
So
you're
Sophie, you are
absolutely
on.
right.
You are on. We want to hear all about
Yeah,
your
yeah.
podcast, and oh my God, we're so excited.
Well, I mean, what I do is I have a website. I'm sorry, I'm just getting over a bit of a flu situation. But it's sexwithsophie.com. My mission essentially is to help people learn how to talk to each other about sex. So whether you're trying to talk to your kids about sex, whether you're trying to talk to people who think differently than you about sex, whether you're trying to talk to your partner about sex, I want to have resources and community available for people to feel comfortable, like you said, in these spaces. So if you go to sexwithsophie.com, you can sign up for a free membership that gets you into, again, that community side of things. We have some quizzes and some fun little attributes and whatnot. But the key or the crux behind a lot of it is the podcast. So the Sex with Sophie podcast is where I interview people from different walks of sexual life. So I've talked to, again, an asexual person. We have some coming up with a senior, a BDSM guy, a sex worker. We have one out with Black lesbians. We just a lot. I'm working on my drag queen episode right now, so we have a lot like in the can. But I have two kind of spin-offs that I'm working on. One is well, I guess three. I have an Ask Sophie series where on sexwithsophie.com, it's like a video advice column essentially where people ask me questions and I come back with a 2 3 4 hour long thoroughly researched response. In fact, you guys might be interested in the one that I did on trans women in sports right around the Olympics with that whole situation where the two women who are not trans were transphobic, to death from these stupid people.
Transphobialized.
Yeah, exactly. Transvestigated, all that.
Oh, yes, that part.
Yeah. So like so that's become a whole series unto itself. I have one coming out called Better Sex with Sophie, where I talk to people who work in sexual fields from, OBGYNs all the way to, again, sex workers to urologists to sexologists, therapists, sex therapists, things like that, LGBTQ, transition specialists. I have a lot of people on for that, but the one I'm like super excited about is going to be Sex Ed with Sophie, and that correlates to a series of classes that I'm doing that are just covering every single topic from hygiene to sex and gender to the actual act of sex to oral sex to all the anal sex, all the different things. But I'm accompanying that with this Sex Ed with Sophie podcast where I'm actually having actual children on the show to demonstrate to parents and to people who have young people in their lives how to talk about sex and sexuality. So with my 5-year-old, we have episodes on family structure. She's adopted, so we talk about what that's like. We talk about how some families have 2 mommies, so how some families have 2 daddies, how some families have 2 mommies and a daddy, how some families have just a single mom. We talk about family structure. We talk about private parts and that you should call your penis a penis and a vagina, and that and we show the research behind why that saves children who otherwise would have been targeted for sexual harassment, where if they have been a victim, that they're much better able to share what happened with them. So we I have age appropriate conversations with my 5-year-old. My 16-year-old nephew is on the show where we can talk a little bit more about, actual sex and safe sex and what are some of his friends, oh, you have a friend who's trans, what does that look like? So, it's something where even with the trans conversation, that's something I talk to my 5-year-old about. We watch Drag Race all the time. And so, there's a lot of girls on there who are trans and it's beautiful how even then when she was 3 and 4 years old, completely understands. Oh, okay, so she's a girl. That one's a girl. That one's a boy. That's a boy. Yeah, that's a girl. I know that looks like a boy, and she's dressing as a girl for the drag queen stuff, but that's actually a girl. She's like, oh, okay. So like if they can understand these concepts at 3, 4, 5 years old, you know, it makes no sense to me that people who are grown ass adults want to act like it's so incomprehensible, or how do you expect me to talk to my kids about, how do you expect me to explain to my son that there's two men, like, or that you're now a boy, very easily, in fact, because they absolutely understand what you're talking about.
Exactly. Children always understand. And
Yeah.
and actually one of the things I talk about that I'll continue to talk about always is never about the child, it's always about the parent.
Yes.
And my own
Yes.
angle is the day you accept yourself and your identity as a parent of a trans kid, that's the day you begin to affirm them, because the child is always going to be who they are. The journey is for the parent or the caregiver. The journey is theirs. So the show is called Moms, the number 4 Trans Kids. We are Mama Beast, and as you know, we don't give a fuck, which is why we're talking to Sophie today. Sophie has a podcast called Sex with Sophie.
No pun intended.
I mean, literally, truly. I mean, not for the asexuals, not for the demisexuals. We just don't. Come through with it. And so I see a bunch of y'all on Instagram, as always. Thank you all so much for showing us so much love. If you have any questions on Instagram, please type your questions. Do not be ashamed. Do not be afraid. We are talking about real stuff here because it needs to be talked about. And yes, kids can talk about sex. I'm a pediatrician. I don't mince the words. What I tell my patients is, if this is a nose, you call this a nose. You call this cheeks. You call this eyes. You call that a penis. You call that a vajayjay. And just keep it moving. Don't make it much more than it should be.
Exactly. Because they don't want to get in the weeds. Sorry, go ahead.
And I like how, there is, as my son was growing up and coming into his own, I let him do just that. When he said, Mom, when he was identifying prior to as a gay, lesbian, female, Mom, I want to play with this. And I'm like, okay, Mom, can you buy me what would be deemed as the more masculine toys? I'm like, all right, and I think that's the moment where parents miss that mark. Because here we go again with, no, you're female, so you can only do A, B, and C. And so that creates that comfortability and that trust that the parent has between the child and themselves. And when it's like this level of organic acceptance, as they get older, it's just like, my mom has always been fine with that. Like, this is a you problem. This ain't got nothing to do with me.
Exactly.
This is your issue, not mine.
Exactly. Like, I think about that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, I want to piggyback. Ellen, talking about, Mom, will you buy me this? Will you buy me that? Before you came on, Sophie, before we went live backstage, I shared a video with Ellen. Ellen, you want to share that video? Because that's a child who is, assigned male at birth, because that's the language we use in the trans space, who, for all intents and purposes, is phenotypically, which means appearance, male, in England, as a matter of fact, in the UK, who asked for a dress for Christmas. Ellen, do you know if it will play the video? You want to see? Okay. Okay, you're muted. We can't hear you. Okay.
Okay, 1 second. I'm hoping that this works. So maybe you and Sophie can continue some dialogue while I'm doing a little tech support here on the end.
Okay, super. So Ellen, so unfortunately, I was waiting for everyone to come on, and I just went on Instagram to set the thing to play live on Instagram, and then I saw a video of a little child, I don't know, maybe 4 years old at the most, who got a Christmas present and was shrieked is the word I'll use. So excited. And the
Oh.
sibling was like, "What's that?" And the kid tore the packet open and boom, it was a bright yellow dress.
Oh.
And he threw it on the ground and said, "Oh no, oh no." And he was so excited, like I'm so excited. And I just wish more parents will see that. This is a, I don't know, 4-year-old, 5-year-old. And the parents got the child what the child asked for Christmas, as
Mm.
opposed to don't say that, shut up, get away, go, don't you ever say that again. Who messed with you? What did I do wrong? And all the things. The child, the glee,
Mm.
the joy in the kid's face. That
And,
child will
yeah.
never ever forget that. It's a
And isn't
small
that what you
thing.
should want for your kids? Like, you just want them to be I do not understand the whole, oh, I'm kicking you out, or
Yeah.
if you don't do, like, how can you birth or go through the whole process of adopting, or receive this beautiful little tiny trusting innocent person in your world. You spend every day feeding them and pouring into them and teaching them and learning with them and crying with them and growing with them, to then suddenly, because they don't like who you think they should like, you abandon your baby? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I
How
think
deep
all
is
of
that
these
thought?
parents out here, I just I don't get it. I really don't. And I think that one of the things that strikes me in this whole conversation is that, like, well, I have a another thing that I do called Call a Leftist. So that's my kind of almost daily live stream that I do, and I stream to Gab and True Social and Rumble and all the alt right kind of places, because I genuinely was like, I gotta understand, because I cannot understand how you can shun, again, somebody you raised and that you supposedly love because of ideology. Like, what the hell? So
Because of anything,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
anything. It doesn't.
exactly,
It's not even
because you
about
don't
fairness now.
fit
Even not
exactly.
fairness. They didn't go
Yeah,
to they didn't go to medical school because we wanted them to go to medical school, or they moved
right,
to
right,
Australia. You wanted them to move to Bali. I mean, whatever the reason is, there
yeah.
should not be any.
But I found that a lot of that, and again, we talked about hate earlier, but a lot of that hatred toward their own children, essentially, a lot of it, I think, comes from, um again, that place of, my kid is wanting to do something different than what I could do, or they're breaking out of this mold that I myself couldn't break out of. And I think there's a lot of jealousy inherent with some,
Oh,
especially narcissistic like parents.
oh.
Um, but on, on
Kids
the
are more their kids are showing that they're a lot more braver than they were
yeah,
allowed to be.
exactly, exactly. And then
Or
the
better
saddest
still,
part,
I can't control the outcome. A lot of
exactly,
times, it's just like, oh, I could not control. I want to control. I want to be the one in control of the
yeah.
outcome.
And then, speaking of that, like, so when I talk to these like really leftist, or excuse me, like alt right kind of people,
Mhm.
and these kind of conversations come up, I always try to see them as them seeing themselves as good people. Like, so I try to hold what they say and think to be true, because they must think that they're good people. And I try to see them as being good people. I try to think that everybody out here is trying their very best to be a good person. And so then when you kind of mine what they say and try to hold it to be true, then I think you start to get into how they box themselves into this way of thinking. And some of it is so scary, because you'll say, okay, so what if your child is gay? What if your child wanted to have a dress for Christmas
That's
and
the
they were
worst.
a little boy or something? Oh, well, they're, then they're falling for the gay agenda. Okay, so what's the gay agenda? They want everybody to be gay. Okay, so what if everybody was gay?
Just
Oh,
keep
then,
going to the next
yeah,
why, the next why, the next
exactly.
why.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Oh,
at the end of the day,
yeah.
it comes down to fear.
Exactly. And not only that, but the fear is mired in such a hypocrisy that only, again, holding their worst fears to be true and actually realizing those fears with them. It's like that's the thing I think that is the only thing that seems to make a bit
But
of a dent.
Sophie,
Yeah.
is it in fact true that
No,
they are?
of course it's not.
Here's
Of
why I
course
asked
it's
that
not.
question. You and I know that the
Mhm.
number one cause of most of this is religion. So
Yeah.
let's go there for a second.
Mhm.
In that same religious space, what are the things that have been coming out up there?
Oh, no, I
Ellen
mean,
and I
you're
were talking about
absolutely
how
right.
we talked about the choir
Yeah.
director, the
The choir
pastor taking
director.
this one. I mean, let's come out and just say it. So
Yes.
the hypocrisy is so true because the fear
Yeah.
is not real.
The
Because
Mhm.
makeup
when no one is
artists,
looking, what did you
Right?
say,
the
Ellen?
makeup artists.
Well, there
A
you
lot of
go.
times the freaking minister,
The
you see
minister.
who they like to
So,
go after. I hate to
so
say it.
is it even in fact true that you really don't want it? Because all you don't want is you don't want a reflection somehow to come back to you, a reflection on you. I don't want my child to be gay because people are going to think I'm a bad parent. I mean, let's
Right.
come out and say it. Because
Right.
if that child was born through another parent, they're still going to be gay.
Yeah.
So the fear here is that someone might say you raised a gay child. And I love what you said. What if you did?
Yeah,
I
like
love that.
what would be the harm in that?
What's
Like
the word?
what if everybody was gay? You act like they'll be like, "Oh, the world would come to an end." Oh, you think people wouldn't just share sperm or freeze their sperm or get IVF or like you think people would like and what if it did? Like what if people stopped procreating in a traditional sense? How does that it doesn't mean that people stop procreating periods. I mean like what so
I know.
let's again
I
let's
mean,
play it
the
out.
fact that we
Yeah.
already have gay people and we have, I don't know, a
Yeah.
gazillion
Where did all the gay people come
Yeah,
from?
but guess what? Exactly. And also, every single day, babies are still being born.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
with all the gay
Exactly.
people we have so far, we have not, the world hasn't stopped increasing. Now we're at
No.
8 billion. So, the gay agenda, if there was one, is not even affecting
Yeah.
procreation anyway.
But then take it a step further and ask them, why do you feel that this social, this supposed gay agenda would be effective? Why do you think that if somebody saw a gay person on television that suddenly that they would be gay?
They become gay.
If it isn't something that you yourself fear.
Is you, yeah,
Because you
because
see
if
this
it
and
was a
you're questioning your own. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
because if it
Exactly.
was a thing, then everyone should be straight.
Yeah.
I say that out because we see
Yeah.
more straight people every day. If
Yeah,
seeing straight
exactly.
people was
And
contagious,
that hasn't
we should
changed
all be straight.
anything. Exactly. So again, when you kind of help them kind of ease them into this understanding, again, I think I heard a really interesting quote. It said something to the effect of like people don't reason themselves into arguments, or you can't reason somebody out of an argument that they didn't reason themselves into. And so,
Mm,
it's one of those same things. Like when you talk, so again, I teach people how to talk to each other about these topics, and that's the thing I found. Like I love watching like Destiny and Javon Bradley and all these people out here who like debate people, and I feel like I take a completely opposite stance because I feel like the second you try to give people facts or look at their philosophical logical fallacies and stuff, you're done. You've lost them. It's over. So I think the way that we impact the older generation or the people who are kind of already set in their ways of thinking is to again hold what they say to be true. Don't try to come at them with facts and figures because they know, and then really address their fears and realize them together, and then try to step them through what that might look like, and that it probably isn't as dire a picture as
yeah,
they fear.
yeah.
So that's kind of my process,
I
with the
love that
older
because
folk. Yeah.
a lot of times one of the things that people say, "Oh, I don't know any trans people." I bring that argument that you said. I like to talk about that and say, "I don't
Yeah.
know any trans people," and I say, or maybe you haven't been safe enough for them to show
Mm,
themselves. I mean, the truth is, we are surrounded
yes.
by trans people. One of my children was trans their whole life, and then she said
Mhm.
to me, "Mom, you've always had a daughter." When I said, "Oh, I finally get the daughter that I want," she said, "Mom, you've always had a daughter." So she was
Aw.
hiding in plain sight, and I just was not safe. And so she just never shared her reality with me. And so when you say
Mhm.
your coworkers or don't bring that in here,
Oh god.
if your
You
child's
hear that?
best friend is queer, honey, your
Yeah.
child's good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no,
And
no.
you know,
You, yeah, go ahead.
one thing that I say too, speaking to your point, Sophie, the one thing that I've shared with Dr. Lulu is, you know, you say you love your child and you've loved your child all these years and all their entire life, and the moment they come out as gay, trans, or otherwise, that was a deal breaker.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's all it took.
That was the thing.
That was it.
Right.
That's where the love stopped.
That was
Right.
it.
So it was conditional.
Exactly.
Those were the
So,
conditions.
yes.
Okay.
So, Sophie, is that the correct quote? You can't reason
Read
someone out
someone
of an
out of
argument that they did not reason themselves into. Is that
exactly. I
what that
gotta
means?
look and see who said that
Okay.
or who originated that because
Yeah,
it's
we don't know what the quote is, but if you are anybody out there, if you know the correct quote, we're not claiming it. We're just
but
saying,
that's the gist.
yeah, that's
Absolutely.
the general, that's the
But
T.
but it speaks to another. I think another thing I hear a lot. Again, as moms, I'm just trying to, I guess, mine my own understanding of some of the fears and things I've been hearing, especially from people who are very contra trans or anti trans or transphobic. Um, but a thing that comes up so much is I'm hard on my kid, or I am telling my kid I don't want them to be this way because society won't accept them, because I'm scared for them, because I'm worried that they're going to get beat up or bullied. And it's like, okay, so if that's the case, then wouldn't you want to be their safe space? Wouldn't you want to
Yeah,
be the place that they can know that they'll be okay?
yeah,
It's like, oh, I'm going to yell and fuss and beat and be upset with my kid because I don't want them to be yelled at and fussed at and beat by other people. But that, so you want that to be associated with you? You know,
yeah.
it's just, it makes no sense to me. So that's another argument I get a lot that I find, I have to kind of walk people through to seeing that hypocrisy, if you will. But is that something, especially as trans parents, that you guys see?
Well, and I will speak to that because I had that same feeling, but my
Mm.
response was different. When my son came
Mm.
out as trans, I was afraid for him. I
Mhm.
was scared completely out of my wits for him because I know that he is sitting in a society that is going to project their hatred on him and create this dynamic where they are not going to love him and accept him to the level that I have done and that I have taught as to
Mhm.
how he should expect. So those tears that I had, Sophie, initially when he came out as trans were fear of how he would be erased.
Mm.
Those tears were anger. Those tears were I'm so bitter towards the society that we live in because of how they are going to create this dynamic of how he shouldn't deserve the well deserved life that everybody else has.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so that
Mm.
was very much my own personal journey. And when people saw me crying, I said, this has nothing to do with me not loving my child. I'm gonna love my child to the ends of the earth. With these tears are who is watching this,
Mm.
who is
No.
going to take away or feel that they have the right
Right
to take away from what I know he should have and what he's
Mhm.
deserving of having.
deserves. Mm. That
Wow.
is so true. So, for those of you who are watching us, the show is called Moms, the number 4 Trans Kids. This is our last episode, and as I watch myself, the room is getting darker. I'm like, I need to turn on my light. My face is vanishing, and we are with just the incredible Sophie and, of course,
Oh.
Ellen, and we are our best, doing our best to deconstruct this lack of freedom to talk about sex, an act that is as primal as human nature, as not even brushing your teeth, as breathing is a
Mhm.
natural thing. And no, I don't care who you think you are. Sex was not made to only be between men and women.
No.
Just because the Bible that you read says it was Adam and Eve, doesn't mean that in Noah's Ark we didn't have some gay shit going on. The Bible specifically talks about Sodom and Gomorrah because there was gay stuff going on. And no, gay folks are not all about sex. And that is one of the things I want people to take out of this episode about sex, that queer
Mhm.
folks, just because we're queer or gay or trans, whatever, we're not always thinking about sex. Just like you are not always thinking about sex.
Right. Right.
I think that's one thing I want people to know. gay people, straight people, trans people, all of us, we have lives. We have to go to work. We have to, families pass away. I mean, we're regular people living our lives. And one little part of us just happens to be this one.
Mhm.
Ellen, what do you think? I'm going to turn on my light. Ellen.
I just am so I'm just so excited, just to kind of be in the midst of all of your projects and shows. And oh my God, I am like now going to be watching, and
Oh,
I'm so excited because even at even at the age that I am, 53.
what?
Yes.
Wait.
50.
Wait. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail your whole thought, but my brain, what?
I know.
I
I normally have
know.
to show my ID in these
Wow.
shows.
I know. Ellen been looking 12 over there.
Oh my God. No, I'm up here thinking like I'm talking to my peers, I'm 42.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, oh, now I gotta have a little more deference. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, no,
You
no,
didn't even
honey.
you didn't even
'Cause
hear
Y'all
I'm
Dr.
look
looking at
Lula's age.
beautiful. Oh
I'm
my,
looking at 56 in 12 weeks. I'll be 56.
how?
I know. Yeah. No, no, no. No.
Yeah,
Yo, black,
Yes.
don't
don't crack.
All day.
crack.
All
Jesus
day.
Christ.
But you know
Y'all
what? I
are
think a part of
gorgeous.
that too, I think a part of that is, as Dr. Lula and I have kind of come into this space of who we are, I think a part of it is when you are older and you are living your truth, that brings on a different
It's,
dynamics of
yes.
how
Mm,
healthy you are,
You are. You
you
show
mm.
know,
up
how that
differently.
how that comes out outwardly.
You're not
Um,
stressed. You don't have all that cortisol in your
You're
system.
not trying
Yeah,
to hide
yeah.
nothing. You're not trying to hide nothing.
That makes
yeah.
sense.
And
Wow.
and just being able to, even at this age, to have these conversations is
Mhm,
so refreshing, because I'm still at this age, I'm still really going through the layers
mhm,
psychologically and mentally of all of the things. I'm unlearning all of the things and
mhm,
finding comfortability sexually, even in who I am now. I'm
mhm.
still, I don't have a lot left.
We're still becoming. Yeah, we're still
I'm still
becoming.
becoming. I've worked
Yes.
through a lot of this through therapy, but there's still this little percentage of initial reaction, like, oh, I can't do that. And then you have to tell yourself, oh, no, no, no. Yes,
I
you
can.
can. And it's
Yes.
okay.
No, well, you got to listen to my Sex at 70 episode when it drops because it's it's revelatory. I interviewed a black man, um, and I go through the whole thing, and then at the end, I'm like, "Thanks, Dad," because it's my dad.
Oh.
so, but the whole thing, I mean, it's a real conversation. I don't think a lot of people have with their fathers, but it talks about that at 70, the different relationships he went through, how they evolved from, his learning of himself and his gaining an understanding of himself, and some of the tips and tricks that he uses to be a better man in his relationships and things. And it was just amazing. So even at 70, this person is, still growing, still evolving. He just got a new girlfriend. Like it's crazy. So like he's I don't know, he's like that shining light for me, that age is literally nothing but a number. It's not, I guess the
Like
mindset is,
gender and race
yeah.
is made up.
Yeah,
It's made
yeah,
up. It's made up.
exactly.
And to your
Yeah.
point, Ellen's friend is 75. I keep coming back to
Right,
it.
right,
But you
right,
will not even, you can't even, first of all, he doesn't look 75. He's a black man.
right,
I don't know,
right.
maybe I give him 60 at the
Oh.
latest. And he's talking about how he is still in evolution. So if
Yeah.
y'all listen, everyone who's listening to this episode, if you don't take anything else, take into 2025 the capacity to allow yourself to evolve.
Yeah.
Just evolve. Like you have to. Ellen and I were talking about the fact that when a child is transitioning, I say that all the time in my
Yes.
practice.
Yes.
If your child is transitioning, you are motherfucking also transitioning. You are. You
Yes.
are. You
Oh.
cannot remain in the same place.
Yeah.
That's a dead person. My mother says
Yeah.
it all the time. Only a dead man has no problems. So that's a different concept, but it's the same.
I like that.
You allow yourself to evolve in 2025. Lean in
Mhm.
to what if I'm gay? What if I'm queer? I want
Yeah.
you to, you know what? I'm going to talk about that on New Year's Eve.
I love that.
What if I am queer?
That's my favorite. I don't know if you've heard of Louis C.K. He's this white comedian, but he's like, I'm 40 now. You know, I might do the second half gay. He's like, those
Yeah.
people are having a lot of fun. You know, so yeah, just take that mentality. I love that, and also
What if I'm gay?
yes,
Or what if it's not even the gayness? What if
Mm.
I can do this thing that I've been afraid of, whatever it is?
yeah. Well, a lot of
Travel,
people don't
quit your
know.
job, get married, get
Yeah,
divorced, free yourself. What if you can do all the things?
but a lot of people don't realize that the difference between, the technical difference between bisexuality and pansexuality is that bisexual people, they like more than one gender essentially, but pansexual people just don't care about the gender.
The
So
gender
that's
of the
kind of the
person.
difference a
Yeah,
little bit, if you want to
yeah.
go with the technical thing. And so
And
I
it's good.
think
And
that
it's good because I am
yeah.
pansexual, and I came into
Hmm.
that realization when I fell hard for a trans woman, and I
Hmm.
was like, okay, yeah, that's a fluke.
But I think
And
people
then
think that the
and
more
then I
you
met the, and
yeah.
then I met this guy. I'm like, wait, you're trans? What? And I was like, okay, so it's official. Every gender, come on
Yeah.
in, let's go. Yeah. But
Yeah.
again, it's not also about the sex because I met them, I didn't have sex with them, and I realized, oh my God, what a smart man. I could listen to you all
Oh.
day.
Oh.
And then you're trans. Oh, Dr. Elijah, how are you trans? I'm not saying his name.
Again, it is not the deal breaker.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's the person. It is the
Right.
person.
Right.
Okay, so Dr. Lulu, before we go, should we try on our queer quiz with Sophie?
Oh
Yes,
gosh.
I think I said we absolutely. We have four questions, or maybe you came up with a fifth
Well,
one.
we're gonna do one. We're gonna try
Okay.
our quick
Yeah,
quiz, and while I'm getting
before you
that
do
question
that,
ready, Dr. Lulu's gonna plug her book.
yeah, before you do that, I
Yes.
want to tell everyone for the last time in this podcast this year, this book drops on December 31st. It's called About Your Black Transgender Child.
Oh.
Y'all, please tell
Link in
someone.
the comments. Link in the comments. Link in the
I
comments.
will. I'll do that. Y'all, please tell someone. You know, I should do that for every episode from now on. Y'all, please go get it. Get yourself a copy. It's going to be dropping on December 31st.
Oh.
Ay, ay, ay. It's happening. All right, go, Ellen, go.
All right, Sophie, here's our queer quiz question before we leave for today's
Okay.
episode. Mama Simpson was a notable drag queen in San Francisco in the 70s and the 80s. Who was Mama Simpson related to?
OJ Simpson?
Yes!
Yes!
Is that right? Or
Yes!
Paul James. Okay.
Yes! Mama Simpson, OJ's father, did identify as a gay man, and unfortunately, he did die of AIDS. But he was
Oh.
a very notable drag queen in the 70s and the 80s in San Francisco that a lot of people do not include in Black
Wow.
queer history. So you
That's
are correct.
amazing.
Yes.
I learned something new. That was a great
There
guess
you
because I didn't
go.
know. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Ellen, give her one more. We got 2 more minutes. Give her one more.
Okay, one more. Here we go. The next question is, what famous 70s R&B artist was in a near fatal car crash and rumored to have a transgender lover?
Oh, Eddie Murphy? No, that's
No,
I'm trying to think.
wrong era, but that should have been a question on there because that is correct. Only
No, but
Eddie didn't have a car
that's what we
crash.
talked about. We talked about
70s
it.
and 80s?
70s and 80s.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll give
I
you a
always
hint
want to
too.
say Prince.
I'll give you a hint
No, I
too.
think Priest was a transgender.
I'll give you a song. I'll give you a little song insert.
Ooh.
Turn out the lights.
Oh, Levert.
Light a candle. Nope.
Oh my God, the Isley brothers.
No.
What? Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so
Give
bad.
up, Sophie. Give up. Okay, how about
Okay,
Love
I'm sorry.
TKO?
Oh my
Looks
gosh.
like another love TKO.
Because he's like, turn them off. I know. In my head, I know who it is. Oh my gosh.
So we're not
Okay,
gonna give
I
you
give
all
up.
the-
I'm
we're not gonna
sorry.
give you all the answer. We're not going to give you all the answer. We're
Okay.
going to leave it on a cliffhanger because we're out of
Oh
time.
my
But
gosh.
Ellen, thank you so much for crafting these questions in Puerto Vallarta last week.
I
Thank you so much for
know.
remembering to ask you because we said we're going to do that and I completely forgot. Thank you, Sophie, for being such a trooper today. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
talking about
Sophie.
sex,
Oh my gosh,
a
this
topic
was
that
And
we must
it's
all
amazing.
Teddy
talk about.
Pendergrass. Ready
10
for her.
centigrass. Yes. 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 So
Thank you.
y'all go figure out, go find out,
Yes,
rather, go
yes,
find out go find sexwithsophie.com, sign up, support our sister. She's talking about stuff that you need to be talking about anyway. Because
yes,
you because you don't know what you don't know. I
and
don't know
Right.
all the words she dropped. I don't know, six
yes.
different kinds of sexuality today. I was like, what? Get
No, no,
sexual.
no. But speaking
So
of which,
sexual.
my final thought is that what Dr. Lulu said about, and what you, Ellen, were saying about just allowing yourself to keep exploring,
Mhm.
give that to your kids. Gift that to
Yes.
your kids.
I love
Please teach them what is possible so that they don't have to guess who they are, so that they know
that.
what options are available to them. Because,
Yes.
they'll, don't let them wait till they're in their 40s and 50s like us to figure out who they are. Okay.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And on that note, Ellen, what do you want to say to the people for the new year? Because next time I see you, it's going to be 2025,
Which
inshallah.
is which is next week.
See you
Which is
next
next
year.
year. So, what New Year message do you have for them?
You know what? Stay true to yourself, and go against the barriers and the grain, and show up as who you are, because you will get to live like this and look like us.
What part? Sophie, what's going away words you have for the people?
Oh my God. Love one another with
Oh,
permission.
I like that.
And
And for
without
me,
judgment.
find
Yes.
me on social
Yes.
media. Sign up for the book. Is dropping December 31st. And ask yourself the question, what if I can?
Ooh.
2025 is coming. We'll see y'all later. The show is called Moms, the number 4 Trans Case podcast. Peace, love, and soul.